Hey there, night owls and history buffs. Tonight, we're diving into the strange and sometimes unsettling world of ancient medical practices. So, before we begin our journey through time, take a moment to adjust your pillows, dim your screens, and maybe light a candle if you're feeling fancy. Hey, and if you're enjoying these nightly excursions into the past, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. It really helps support the channel and keeps these historical lullabies coming your way. Now, let me know in the comments where you're retuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the globe. Whether you're just settling in for the night or catching an early morning history fix. Alright, let's ease into tonight's journey together. Close your eyes if you'd like. Let the gentle crackle of our virtual fireplace transport you to a time long past, where medicine was more art than science, and the cures were often stranger than the ailments themselves. Picture, if you will, the bustling streets of ancient Rome. The year is 50 AD, and you've just stubbed your toe on a cobblestone. In our modern world, you'd probably just walk it off. But in ancient Rome, well, you might find yourself being prescribed a healthy dose of fresh mouse droppings. Yes, you heard that right. Roman physicians believed that these little presents from our rodent friends had healing properties. They'd mix them into a paste and apply it directly to wounds. It's almost enough to make you grateful for our modern band-aids, isn't it? But let's not be too hard on the Romans. After all, they weren't the only ones with some questionable medical practices. Let's take a leisurely stroll over to medieval Europe, shall we? It's the 14th century, and you've got a nasty headache. Today, you'd reach for some aspirin. Back then, well, you might find yourself at the local barber surgeon's shop, not for a trim, but for a hole in your head. Trepanation, the practice of drilling holes in the skull to relieve pressure or release evil spirits, was surprisingly common. Imagine walking down the street and seeing your neighbors with little round holes in their heads, like some sort of human cheese grater. It's a testament to human resilience that anyone survived these procedures at all. Now, let's sail across the ocean to ancient China. It's around 200 BC, and you're feeling a bit under the weather. In our time, you might check your temperature or look for other symptoms. In ancient China, well, you'd probably find yourself sticking out your tongue for a physician to examine. Chinese medicine placed great importance on the appearance of the tongue, believing it to be a map of the body's organs. Different areas of the tongue corresponded to different parts of the body, and the color, coating, and shape could all indicate various ailments. It's not too far off from our modern understanding of the tongue as an indicator of health. But imagine basing your entire diagnosis on a quick peek at someone's taste buds. Yes, I see your liver area is looking a bit pale. Have you been eating too many cold foods lately? As we drift further into our historical slumber, let's ponder the curious case of the wandering womb. This was a belief held by ancient Greek physicians that a woman's uterus could detach itself and wander around the body, causing all sorts of ailments. Feeling a bit breathless, be your womb pressing against your lungs. Headache. Oh, that's just your uterus taking a stroll up to your brain. The treatments for this imaginary condition were just as bizarre as the diagnosis. Some doctors recommended pleasant smells near the vagina to lure the womb back into place. Others suggested unpleasant odors by the nose to drive it back down. It's almost like they thought of the uterus as some sort of mischievous pet that needed to be coaxed back into its cage. Now, let's take a moment to appreciate the soothing crackle of our fireplace. Can you hear it? Let the gentle pops and hisses lull you deeper into relaxation as we continue our journey through the annals of medical history. As we drift along the river of time, we find ourselves in 18th century Europe, where bloodletting was all the rage. God, a fever. Let's drain some blood. Feeling a bit melancholy. Nothing a good bleeding won't fix. Its practice was based on the belief in the four humors: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. If these were out of balance, illness would occur, and apparently the best way to balance them was to drain away some blood. Doctors would use leeches or make small incisions to let the blood flow. It was so popular that even barbers got in on the action, which is why traditional barber poles are red and white, representing the bloodied bandages used in the procedure. Next time you pass a barber shop, you can thank your lucky stars. They're only offering haircuts these days. Now, let's paddle our way across the Atlantic to pre-Columbian Mesoamerica. The Mayans, known for their advanced mathematics and astronomy, also had some interesting ideas about medicine. One of their go-to treatments for various ailments was the sweat bath, or temazcal. These dome-shaped structures were believed to purify the body and spirit. But it wasn't just a relaxing spa day. The Mayans would often combine the sweat bath with other treatments, like bloodletting or the application of herbal remedies. Imagine stepping out of a steaming hot chamber, lightheaded and dizzy, only to have someone come at you with obsidian blades for a quick bloodletting session. It's enough to make you appreciate a simple aspirin, isn't it? As our eyelids grow heavier and the fireplace continues its soothing symphony, let's drift over to ancient Egypt. The land of pyramids and pharaohs was also home to some intriguing medical practices. One of the most fascinating was their approach to contraception. Ancient Egyptian women would use a mixture of crocodile dung and honey as a contraceptive device. That's right, date, well, inserted before intercourse. Now, before you wrinkle your nose in disgust, consider this. Crocodile dung is actually slightly acidic, which could have had some spermicidal effects, and honey has antibacterial properties. So while it might not have been the most pleasant method, it wasn't entirely without merit. Still, I think we can all agree that modern birth control methods are a significant improvement. As we near the end of our historical journey, let's take a moment to reflect on how far we've come in the field of medicine. From mouse droppings and wandering wombs to modern antibiotics and minimally invasive surgeries, the progress is truly remarkable. Yet, who knows, perhaps in a few hundred years, people will look back on our current medical practices with the same mixture of amusement and horror that we view these ancient methods. The fire is starting to die down now, its gentle glow fading as we prepare to return to the present. But before we do, let's take one last stop in medieval Europe. It's the 16th century, and you've got a toothache. Today, you'd visit a dentist for a filling, or maybe even a root canal. Back then, well, you might find yourself seeking out the local executioner. Yes, you read that right. Executioners were often sought out for dental work. The theory was that they had steady hands from all that axe wielding, and they were used to dealing with blood and pain. So, if you had a troublesome tooth, you might end up having it yanked out by the same person who carried out death sentences. Talk about a grim dental plan as our journey through medical history comes to a close. I hope these tales of strange cures and curious treatments have lulled you into a peaceful state. Remember, as odd as some of these practices may seem, they were born out of a genuine desire to heal and help others. It's a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance, even if the results were sometimes less than ideal. So as you drift off to sleep tonight, be thankful for modern medicine. And if you find yourself counting sheep, maybe spare a thought for those ancient patients who might have been prescribed actual sheep counting as a cure for insomnia. Who knows, it might have worked better than mouse droppings. Sweet dreams, history lovers. May your sleep be deep, your dreams be pleasant, and your wandering wombs stay put. Good night. In the next story, we re-diving into the peculiar world of ancient laws that have you scratching your head and maybe even chuckling yourself to sleep. Our first stop on this quirky legal tour takes us to ancient Rome, where cheese theft was considered a serious crime. Yes, you heard that right. In a society that valued its dairy products almost as much as its grand architecture, pilfering a wheel of cheese could land you in some seriously hot water. Imagine being a Roman citizen, casually strolling through the Forum, when suddenly you're overcome with an irresistible urge to snatch a nearby chunk of pecorino. Well, my friend, you'd better think twice, because that cheesy indiscretion could cost you more than just a few denarii. But wait, it gets even more absurd. In medieval Britain, there was actually a law forbidding people from dying in the Houses of Parliament. I know what you're thinking. How exactly does one enforce a law against dying? It's not like you can arrest a corpse for breaking the rules. The origins of this peculiar statute are shrouded in mystery. But some speculate it was tied to the belief that anyone who died in the royal palace was entitled to a state funeral. Clearly, they did any old commoner, sneaking in for their final breath and scoring a fancy send-off. As we drift further into the realm of historical oddities, let's pause for a moment to appreciate the gentle crackling of our fireplace. Close your eyes if you like, and let the warmth of the flames wash over you, transporting you to a time long past. Feel your muscles relaxing, your breathing slowing, as we continue our journey through the annals of ridiculous regulations. Now, imagine yourself in ancient Greece, where the philosopher Plato had some rather strong opinions about the dangers of excessive laughter. That's right. In his ideal republic, Plato proposed that guardians of the state should avoid laughter, as he believed it could lead to violent emotions. Picture a world where chuckling too heartily at a friend's joke could land you in hot water with the authorities. Halt, citizen. You seem to be enjoying yourself far too much. I'm afraid I'll have to ask you to tone down that mirth immediately. But let's not be too hard on the Greeks. After all, they weren't the only ones with some questionable ideas about personal conduct. In 16th century England, King Henry VIII decided that his subjects were getting a bit too fancy with their fashion choices. He introduced sumptuary laws that dictated exactly what people could wear based on their social status. If you were a common merchant, you could forget about strutting around in that purple silk doublet you'd been eyeing. That was strictly reserved for the nobility. Thank you very much. As we meander through this labyrinth of ludicrous laws, let the gentle hum of the fire lull you deeper into relaxation. Feel the weight of your body sinking into your bed or chair, your mind drifting lazily from one bizarre statute to the next. Speaking of bizarre, let's hop over to medieval Spain, where there was once a law in the city of Barcelona that prohibited pig walking on the streets. Now, before you start wondering why anyone would want to take their pet pig for a stroll in the first place, it's worth noting that pigs were actually quite common in medieval cities. They were often allowed to roam freely, acting as a sort of medieval garbage disposal system. But apparently, the good people of Barcelona decided that enough was enough, and porcine pedestrians were officially banned. But wait, there's more. In ancient Sparta, men were actually required by law to get married, okay? And not just that, they had to do it by a certain age or face penalties. Imagine being a carefree Spartan bachelor, enjoying the single life, and suddenly you receive a summons from the state, demanding you tie the knot or face the consequences. Talk about pressure to settle down. As we continue our journey through the annals of absurd legislation, let your mind wander and your thoughts grow hazy. The crackling fire provides a soothing backdrop to these tales of yesteryear, gently guiding you towards the shores of sleep. Now, let's travel to medieval England once more, where we find a law that might make modern football fans scratch their heads. In the 14th century, King Edward II actually banned the sport of football. No, not because he was more of a cricket enthusiast, but because he believed the game was distracting his archers from their military training. Apparently, kicking a ball around was deemed far too entertaining and had to be stopped for the sake of national security. And speaking of sports, did you know that in ancient Rome, it was once illegal for women to watch wrestling matches? The reasoning behind this peculiar prohibition was that the sight of sweaty, muscular men grappling with each other might inflame the passions of female spectators. One can only imagine the clandestine, underground wrestling viewing parties that must have sprung up as a result. As our fire continues to crackle softly in the background, let your eyelids grow heavy and your breathing deepen. We're nearing the end of our journey through the quirky corridors of historical jurisprudence. But there are still a few more gems to uncover. In 18th century Prussia, King Frederick William I had a bit of an obsession with tall soldiers. So much so that he introduced a law forbidding tall people from marrying other tall people. His reasoning: he wanted to ensure a steady supply of vertically gifted recruits for his army. Imagine being a strapping young Prussian lad, falling head over heels for the tall girl next door, only to be told by the state that your love was illegal. Talk about a height restriction on romance. Okay, and finally, let us end our tour with a law that might make you think twice about your next cup of joe. In 16th century Constantinople, it was actually illegal to drink coffee. The reasoning behind this caffeinated prohibition: the authorities believed that coffee shops were hotbeds of political dissent and social unrest. Apparently, nothing spurs revolution quite like a good espresso. So we come to the end of our journey through the weird and wonderful world of ancient laws. Let the warmth of the fire and the gentle hum of history lull you into a peaceful slumber. May your dreams be free of absurd regulations and your sleep as deep as the annals of time. Remember, if you enjoyed this little nocturnal history lesson, don't forget to like and subscribe. And who knows, perhaps in a few hundred years, people will be drifting off to sleep listening to stories about our own bizarre laws and customs. Until next time, sleep tight and don't let the ancient lawmakers bite. In the next story, we're delving into the dark and often overlooked world of punishments in ancient civilizations. As we embark on this journey through the annals of history, picture yourself seated by a crackling fireplace, its warm glow casting dancing shadows on the walls. The gentle pop and hiss of burning wood will be our constant companion as we explore the often brutal world of ancient punishments. Imagine, if you will, the bustling streets of ancient Rome. The air is thick with the scent of spices, unwashed bodies, and the ever-present aroma of fresh bread. Suddenly, a commotion erupts. A thief has been caught red-handed, pilfering a merchant's wares. In our modern world, this might result in a court date and a fine. But in ancient Rome, oh, how different things were. And you'd be right. Sacked. Some were downright creative. Take, for example, the ancient Greek practice of ostracism. Here, we find a culture that believed strongly in the afterlife, a belief that heavily influenced their approach to punishment. One of the worst fates an ancient Egyptian could suffer was to have their name erased from history. This wasn't a physical punishment at all, but a political one. Once a year, the citizens of Athens would gather to vote on whether anyone should be ostracized. If someone received enough votes, they would be exiled from the city for 10 years. Instead of execution, they would have their faces tattooed or scarred. This permanent mark of shame would follow them for the rest of their lives, a constant reminder of their misdeeds. It speaks to a culture where warfare and honor were deeply intertwined with religious belief. Don't worry though, we'll keep things just interesting enough to pique your curiosity, but not so exciting that it'll keep you awake. Our modern justice systems, while far from perfect, are a far cry from the often brutal and arbitrary punishments of the ancient world. Take, for example, the ancient Norse practice of the blood eagle. How do we deter crime while maintaining our humanity? This gruesome execution method, which involved cutting open the back and spreading the ribs to resemble wings, was reportedly reserved for the worst of enemies. And if you're still awake, don't worry. There's always tomorrow night for more historical tales. Sleep well, dear listeners, and may your dreams be free of ancient punishments. As you close your eyes and let sleep claim you, perhaps you'll dream of ancient civilizations, of bustling marketplaces and grand coliseums. Or perhaps you'll simply drift into a peaceful, dreamless slumber. Often it was used to remove politicians who were becoming too powerful. It was democracy in action, albeit a form that might raise a few eyebrows today. As you drift off to sleep, perhaps you'll ponder these age-old dilemmas. I hope these tales of ancient punishments have been just interesting enough to engage your mind, but not so exciting as to keep you from sleep. Or perhaps you will simply be grateful that you live in an era where stealing a loaf of bread will result in losing a hand. In the ancient world, justice was often swift, severe, and spectacularly public. not all ancient punishments were quite so dire, okay? Some were downright amusing, at least from our modern perspective. Your mouth would be parched, your tongue swollen, and all for telling a fib. Now, the Mayans are often remembered for their impressive pyramids and advanced astronomical knowledge. But they also had some rather inventive forms of punishment. It certainly puts our modern timeouts and grounding into perspective, doesn't it? In ancient Persia, for instance, there was a rather unique form of punishment for liars. The offender would be forced to eat large quantities of salt without being allowed to drink any water. The unfortunate pickpocket might find himself facing the dreaded bustuarium, a punishment where the condemned was beaten to death with clubs. It was believed that without these earthly reminders, the soul would be unable to continue its journey in the afterlife. Imagine, if you will, not just being punished in this life, but potentially for all eternity. It was a brutal spectacle, designed not just to punish the offender, but to serve as a stark warning to any would-be criminals in the crowd. The Romans, you see, were big believers in the deterrent effect of public punishment. But let's not pick on the Romans too much. Okay, they were far from alone in their penchant for harsh punishments. It was reserved for the most serious of crimes, such as treason or patricide. The process could last for hours or even days, depending on the skill or perhaps the mercy of the executioner. Let's drift eastward in our minds to the vast expanse of ancient China. Here, during the Zhou dynasty, we find a punishment that might make even the hardiest of souls wince: the infamous death by 1,000 cuts. Known as Linki in Chinese, this gruesome form of execution involved the gradual removal of body parts while the condemned was still alive. Now, I can almost hear you thinking, but surely not all ancient punishments were so severe. The interesting part, being ostracized wasn't necessarily a mark of wrongdoing. As we continue our journey through time, let's pause for a moment in ancient Egypt. This punishment, known as damnatio memoria, involved the systematic removal of a person's name and image from all public records and monuments. But let's lighten the mood a bit, shall we? Can you imagine? As we continue our historical meander, let's turn our attention to the ancient Mayans. One particularly interesting method was used for nobles who had committed serious crimes. But perhaps one of the most fascinating aspects of ancient punishments is how they often reflected the values and beliefs of the society that created them. The blood eagle wasn't just a punishment, it was a ritual, a way of offering the condemned to Odin, the chief god of the Norse pantheon. As we near the end of our journey through the annals of ancient punishments, it's worth reflecting on how far we've come. Yet, in many ways, the fundamental questions remain the same. What is justice? How do we balance punishment with rehabilitation? These are questions that have puzzled societies for millennia, and they continue to challenge us today. And so, as the fire begins to die down and the shadows grow longer, we come to the end of our historical journey. Remember, history is a tapestry woven from countless threads, some bright, some dark, but all contributing to the rich fabric of human experience. Whatever the case, I hope this journey through time has helped you unwind and prepare for a restful night's sleep. In the next story, we're diving into the fascinating world of failed inventions from the ancient world and more. Picture, if you will, the bustling streets of ancient Rome. The air is thick with the scent of olive oil lamps and freshly baked bread. Amid the chaos of daily life, inventors and tinkerers are hard at work, dreaming up contraptions to revolutionize the world. But for every brilliant idea that stood the test of time, there were countless others that, well, let's just say they didn't quite make the cut. Take, for example, the Roman attempt at central heating. He sent expeditions far and wide in search of magical herbs and potions that would grant eternal life. His alchemists worked tirelessly, mixing all sorts of ingredients in their quest for immortality. One particularly popular recipe included cinnabar, a bright red mineral that, unfortunately, is also a major source of mercury. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, Didn't the Romans invent underfloor heating? And you'd be right, to an extent, but as a defense against one of history's deadliest pandemics. Let's just say it was about as effective as using a paper umbrella in a hurricane. Some inventive souls became convinced that the rustling of beards was a serious problem that needed solving. Enter the beard silencer, a sort of net or cage that would be worn over the beard to keep it from making noise as the wearer moved about. Yet, for years, people clung to their pomanders, hoping against hope that the power of pleasant smells would save them from the ravages of the plague. But that didn't stop entrepreneurs from patenting and marketing these bizarre devices. The idea was to harness the power of the wind to propel settlers across the Great Plains. On paper, it seemed like a stroke of genius. There are even tales of wind wagons getting caught in strong gusts and quite literally taking flight, much to the terror of their passengers. In practice, let's just say it was less than smooth sailing. But you have to admire the creativity and the spirit of adventure that led to its creation. It's a reminder that even our failures can be stepping stones to greater innovations. The elixirs of immortality, dangerous as they were, came from a very human desire to extend life and cheat death. Even the beard silencer, odd as it may seem, was born from a genuine belief that it could improve people's lives, or at least their dining experiences. Their creativity, their willingness to try something new, even in the face of skepticism or ridicule. Your support means the world and helps keep these cozy historical nights coming. Good night and sweet dreams. And please, share in the comments your favorite failed invention from history. Or maybe one you've dreamed up yourself. Who knows? Your idea might just be crazy enough to work. Who knows? Maybe in your dreams, you'll come up with the next world-changing invention. Hopefully one that is a bit more successful than a wind wagon or a portable hypocaust. Feel free to adjust your position, maybe snuggle deeper into your blankets. Each of these inventors, no matter how misguided their creations might seem to us now, was driven by a desire to solve a problem, to make life better in some way. Remember, there's no pressure to stay awake. If you find yourself drifting off, that's perfectly fine. That's what we're here for, after all. But each failure, each misstep, teaches us something new. The fire is burning low, and the night is calling us to rest. Remember, whether you're dozing off now or still wide awake, that's okay. There's no right or wrong way to enjoy these stories. It pushes us to think differently, to question our assumptions, and to keep reaching for that next great idea. Needless to say, the beard silencer never quite caught on. It turns out most men preferred their facial hair free range and unencumbered, i.e., but in ancient China, they didn't have the benefit of modern toxicology. So, the emperor and his court eagerly consumed these elixirs, believing they were on the path to eternal youth. In the early days of colonial America, one inventor came up with what he thought was a brilliant solution to the problem of transportation in the vast, untamed wilderness. The wind wagon. To the pomander, a small perforated container filled with aromatic herbs and spices. The idea was that by carrying this sweet-smelling ball, you could ward off the bad air that was thought to cause the plague. Rocks, ravines, and the occasional startled buffalo made for a bumpy and unpredictable ride. Then there was the small matter of steering, or rather, the lack thereof. Turns out, a wagon barreling across the plains at the mercy of the wind is the easiest thing to control. Spoiler alert, it didn't work out so well. In a twist of fate that would be funny if it weren't so tragic, many of these immortality seekers likely shortened their lives considerably. Consider the case of the beard silencing device from 19th century Britain. Yes, you heard that right. A contraption designed to keep your beard quiet. The hypocaust system was indeed a marvel of engineering, pumping hot air beneath floors and through walls. The Middle Ages were a time of great innovation, but also of some spectacularly misguided ideas. For instance, the concept of the plague-repelling pomander. But here's where things get interesting. Some overzealous inventors tried to take it a step further. Legend has it that one particularly ambitious Roman engineer attempted to create a portable hypocaust. Imagine, if you will, a contraption resembling a modern-day wheelbarrow filled with hot coals and fitted with a series of pipes. Shall we say, minor setbacks. For one, it was incredibly heavy, requiring the strength of several slaves to move it. Then there was the small matter of smoke. Turns out, indoor bonfires aren't great for air quality. And let's not forget the fire hazard. More than one Roman noble found their prized tapestries going up in flames thanks to this well-intentioned but ill-fated invention. The idea was to wield this mobile heater from room to room, spreading warmth throughout the villa. Sounds clever, right? Well, as you might have guessed, it didn't quite work out. The portable hypocaust faced a few. But the Romans weren't the only ones with a knack for creative failures. Let's journey eastward to ancient China, where the pursuit of immortality led to some rather questionable concoctions. The Qin dynasty, famous for giving us the terracotta army, also gave us one of history's most ironic inventions, the elixir of life that killed you. Emperor Qin Shi Huang was obsessed with living forever. Now, I don't need to tell you that ingesting mercury is a bad idea. As we drift through the annals of history, let's pause for a moment in medieval Europe. During the Black Death, people were desperate for any form of protection against the deadly disease. Now, to be fair, some of the herbs used in pomanders did have mild antiseptic properties. But not all failed inventions were matters of life and death. Some were simply ... On the Victorian era, facial hair was all the rage. But with great beards came great responsibility, and apparently great noise. Now, you might be wondering just how noisy were Victorian beards. The answer is, probably not very. As we continue our journey through the quirky corners of history, let's take a moment to appreciate the soothing crackle of our virtual fireplace. Now, let's sail across the ocean to the New World, where the spirit of invention was alive and well, if not always successful. Picture, if you will, a wagon with sails, like a ship on wheels. The wind wagon faced a few ... challenges. For one, the prairies weren't exactly as flat and obstacle-free as the open ocean. More than one hopeful pioneer found themselves careening off course, their wind wagon taking them on an unexpected detour. Needless to say, the wind wagon never quite replaced the trusty covered wagon. As we near the end of our journey through history's failed inventions, let's take a moment to reflect on what these stories teach us. The portable hypocaust was an attempt to bring warmth and comfort to cold Roman villas. These stories remind us that the path of progress is rarely straight. It's filled with twists and turns, dead ends, and unexpected detours. As you drift off to sleep tonight, I invite you to carry with you the spirit of these ancient inventors. Hey, and with that, dear listeners, it's time for us to bring our historical journey to a close. If you found this soothing, don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, sleep well, dream big, and remember, even history's greatest inventors had their fair share of flops. Hey there, fellow history enthusiasts. Tonight, we're delving into the mysterious world of forgotten cities. Those ancient metropolises that time has all but erased from our collective memory. Before we embark on this journey through the mists of time, take a moment to settle in. Maybe grab a cozy blanket, dim the lights, and let the gentle crackle of our virtual fireplace wash over you. If you're enjoying this soothing ambience, don't forget to like the video and subscribe, but only if it truly resonates with you. I'd love to know where you're retuning in from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's always fascinating to see our global community coming together for these nocturnal adventures. Now, let's ease into tonight's tale of lost civilizations and buried secrets. Close your eyes if you'd like, and let my voice guide you through the winding streets of history's forgotten cities. Our first stop takes us to the enigmatic ruins of Mohenjo-Daro, nestled in the Indus Valley of present-day Pakistan. This ancient city, one of the largest and best-preserved urban settlements of the Indus Valley civilization, flourished around 2600 BCE. Imagine, if you will, a bustling metropolis with advanced urban planning, sophisticated drainage systems, and imposing public buildings. The Great Bath, a large public water tank, stands as a testament to their engineering prowess. But what's truly captivating about Mohenjo-Daro is the mystery surrounding its decline. No signs of violence, no evidence of invasion. It's as if the entire population simply vanished into thin air, leaving behind their possessions and the bones of their ancestors. As we drift through time, our journey takes us to the legendary city of Petra, carved into the rose-red cliffs of southern Jordan, hidden from the Western world for centuries. This ancient Nabatean capital was rediscovered in 1812 by Swiss explorer Johann Ludwig Burckhardt. Picture yourself walking through the narrow Sick, a natural gorge flanked by towering cliffs, until you're suddenly face to face with the magnificent treasury. Its intricate facade, hewn directly from the rock face, seems to glow in the soft desert light. Petra was once a thriving trade center, but time and changing trade routes led to its gradual abandonment. Now, it stands as a silent sentinel, guarding the secrets of a civilization long past. Let's drift further back in time to the mysterious city of Kataluk in modern-day Turkey. This Neolithic settlement, dating back to 7500 BCE, challenges our understanding of early urban life. Unlike the cities we're familiar with, Kataluk had no streets. Instead, its mud brick houses were built so close together that people moved about on the rooftops and entered their homes through holes in the ceiling. Imagine a city where your neighbor's roof was your sidewalk, where elaborate wall paintings and intricate figurines hint at a rich spiritual life we can only begin to comprehend. As our mental journey continues, we find ourselves in the lush jungles of Cambodia, standing before the uninspiring temples of Angkor. This vast complex, covering over 400 square kilometers, was once the heart of the Khmer Empire. The crown jewel, Angkor Wat, is a masterpiece of architecture and spirituality. But it's the lesser-known temples that truly captured the imagination. Ta Prohm, with its massive tree roots embracing crumbling stone walls, seems like something out of a dream. For centuries, Angkor lay hidden beneath a jungle canopy, its grandeur forgotten, until French naturalist Henri Mouat stumbled upon it in 1860. Our next destination takes us to the haunting ruins of Great Zimbabwe in southern Africa. This medieval city, built between the 11th and 15th centuries, was the capital of the Kingdom of Zimbabwe. The most impressive feature is the Great Enclosure, a massive circular structure built entirely of stone without mortar. For years, European explorers refused to believe that such an advanced civilization could have existed in Africa, attributing the ruins to everyone from the Phoenicians to the Queen of Sheba. It was until the 20th century that Great Zimbabwe was recognized for what it truly was, a testament to the ingenuity and power of African kingdoms. As we continue our somnolent journey through history, let's pause for a moment in the ancient city of Tico, deep in the Guatemalan rainforest. Once a powerful Mayan city-state, Tikals, towering pyramids, and sprawling plazas were swallowed by the jungle for centuries. Imagine the moment when explorers first stumbled upon these massive structures, their stone faces emerging from the green canopy like ancient giants awakening from a long slumber. The city's sudden abandonment around 900 CE remains one of archaeology's greatest mysteries. Our final stop on this nocturnal tour brings us to the windswept plains of Central Asia and the lost city of Merv. Once one of the largest cities in the world, Merv was a key stop on the Silk Road, a melting pot of cultures and ideas. Its strategic location made it a prize for conquerors, and it changed hands many times throughout its long history. But it was the Mongol invasion in 1221 that dealt the fatal blow. The city's destruction was so complete that it faded from memory, its ruins lying silent under the desert sun for centuries. As we drift back to the present, let's ponder the impermanence of human achievement. These great cities, once the pride of mighty civilizations, now lie in ruins or are lost to time entirely. Yet, they continue to captivate us, their mysteries drawing us in like moths to a flame. The gentle crackle of our virtual fireplace reminds us that we, too, are part of this grand tapestry of human history. As you feel yourself growing drowsy, let your mind wander through the winding streets of these forgotten cities. Perhaps in your dreams, you'll walk among the ancient stones, hearing the echoes of long-lost voices and feeling the weight of millennia beneath your feet. Remember, history is not just a collection of dates and facts, but a living, breathing story of human triumph and folly. Even as we sleep, these forgotten cities continue to whisper their secrets, waiting for the day when their stories will be told once more. As your eyelids grow heavy and sleep beckons, know that you're part of this ongoing story. Tomorrow, you'll wake to write your own chapter in the grand narrative of human history. But for now, let the soothing sounds of the fire and the whispers of ancient stones lull you into a peaceful slumber. Good night, fellow travelers through time. May your dreams be filled with the wonders of ages past and the promise of discoveries yet to come. In the next story, we're diving into the peculiar world of ancient occupations. Those strange jobs that kept civilizations ticking, but have long since faded into obscurity. Imagine, if you will, waking up in ancient Egypt. The sun is barely peeking over the horizon, and already the air is thick with the promise of another scorching day. Hour after hour, day after day, this dedicated individual would ensure that not a single fly dared to land on the royal personage. It was a job that required the reflexes of a cat, the eyesight of a hawk, and the endurance of a camel. One can only imagine the sense of pride. One wrong move, one misplaced pen, and you might find yourself on the wrong side of a very influential, very annoyed client. And let us not even get started on the potential for neck strain, both for the ornatrix and the poor soul wearing their creation. Among the genuinely bereaved family members, you'd find the gala, its faces contorted in expressions of utmost sorrow, their voices raised in lamentations that would put modern-day soap operas to shame. These weren't just any criers. They were highly trained professionals, versed in the art of public grieving. That came with introducing oneself at parties as the official keeper of the pharaoh's personal airspace. Now, the gala were not, as you might guess, ancient party planners or early ice cream vendors. It's a job that certainly required a strong stomach, excellent persuasion skills, and probably a good sense of humor. No, this wasn't a euphemism for something unsavory. Knocker-uppers were essentially human alarm clocks in an age before reliable mechanical timepieces were widely available. One can only wonder about the job interviews for such a position. Streets are quiet, save for the rhythmic tapping of a long stick against second and third story windows. This is the knocker-upper, making their rounds to ensure that workers don't oversleep and miss their shifts at the factory. One can imagine a complex chain of early risers, each responsible for rousing the next, like some sort of sleep-deprived domino effect across the town. In practice, one imagines it created a rather tense dynamic in the royal nursery. One can only hope that these whipping boys grew up to write some truly scathing memoirs, from fly swatters to professional mourners, from urine collectors to human alarm clocks. These jobs remind us that throughout history, people have always found unique ways to make a living. Careful with that inkwell, Your Highness. I'd rather not have welts on my backside because you decided to redecorate the tapestries. So, tell me, what drew you to the field of urine-based cuisine? Remember, if you enjoyed this historical lullaby, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, may your sleep be deep and your dreams be mercifully free of virgin boy eggs. Before you recoil in horror, let me explain. This unfortunate individual, often a young nobleman himself, would be raised alongside a prince or young king and would receive any corporal punishment earned by the royal child. Though, come to think of it, the last one might sound familiar to anyone who's ever worked in middle management. This peculiar occupation involved the creation of a springtime delicacy in the city of Dongyang, tradition that continues to this day, albeit with some understandable controversy. Now, this job title might conjure up all sorts of unsavory images, but the reality was, well, still pretty unsavory, to be honest. No, these individuals held a far more somber and, some might say, peculiar position in society. It was a job that required punctuality, a good memory for addresses, and, presumably, the ability to dodge various objects thrown by grumpy, sleep-deprived workers. Yes, you heard that correctly. These virgin boy eggs were believed to have medicinal properties, capable of reducing body heat, promoting better blood circulation, and generally invigorating the body. The gala were professional mourners, hired to weep, wail, and generally express grief at funerals. But for some, the heat is the least of their worries. Across the Mediterranean, in ancient Rome, we find another curious occupation, the ornatrix. They would sing dirges, play mournful music on various instruments, and generally ensure that no funeral was ever in danger of being too cheerful. It was a job that required a flair for the dramatic, a good set of lungs, and presumably a steady supply of onions. Now, before your imagination runs wild, let me clarify. Ornatrix was essentially a hairdresser to the Roman elite. But oh, what a hairdresser they were. These artisans of the coiffure were responsible for creating the elaborate, often gravity-defying hairstyles that were all the rage among Roman ladies of status. Take, for instance, the noble profession of the pharaoh's flycatcher. These hairstyles were so complex that they often took hours to create and required a small army of slaves to maintain. The ornatrix would weave in false hair, add colorful ribbons, and even incorporate small ornaments or jewels. It was architecture, sculpture, and fashion, all rolled into one precarious package atop a noblewoman's head. Yes, you heard that right. In a land where flies were as abundant as grains of sand, someone had to keep those pesky insects away from the living god-king. Picture a man, armed with nothing but a net made of fine linen and the patience of a saint, swatting away at the air around the pharaoh's head. But let's not limit ourselves to the lands of the Nile. Imagine spending your days teasing, curling, and piling hair into towering structures that would make modern-day wedding cakes look understated. The job came with its own unique hazards, of course. As we drift further back in time, let's pause in ancient Mesopotamia, where we encounter the intriguing role of the gala. Imagine, if you will, a funeral procession winding its way through the dusty streets of Ur or Babylon. The gala were often eunuchs, believed to possess a unique ability to channel both masculine and feminine energies in their performances. Now, let's sail across the seas to ancient China, where we encounter a profession that might make even the bravest among us think twice. The Tong Zai Guan, or virgin boy egg makers. The job of the Tong Zai Guan was to collect urine from young boys, preferably under the age of 10, and use it to boil eggs. Imagine spending your days approaching parents, requesting permission to collect their son's urine, and then using said urine to prepare a snack. As we continue our journey through the annals of bizarre occupations, let's not forget the knocker-uppers of Industrial Revolution era Britain. Picture this. It's the crack of dawn in a smoky industrial town, armed with a long pole. These diligent individuals would go from house to house, tapping on windows until they received some sign that the occupant was awake. The irony, of course, is that someone had to wake up the knocker-upper. As our eyelids grow heavy and the fireplace continues its soothing crackle, let's make one final stop in medieval Europe, where we encounter the curious profession of the whipping boy. In an age where royal and noble children were considered too important to be physically punished, the whipping boy served as a proxy. The theory was that the prince, seeing his friend punished for his misdeeds, would feel guilty and learn from his mistakes. It was a job that came with certain perks: education alongside royalty, fine clothes, good food, but at the cost of being the kingdom's most official scapegoat. As we draw our journey to a close, let's take a moment to appreciate the ingenuity, the desperation, or perhaps the sheer absurdity that led to the creation of these strange professions. So, the next time you find yourself complaining about your 9 to 5, remember, at least you not boiling eggs in little boys' urine or getting whipped for someone else's misdeeds. And with that thought, I'll leave you to drift off into dreams of ancient job fairs and bizarre career counseling sessions. In the next story, we're diving into the murky waters of ancient prophecies that never quite hit the mark. You know, those grand predictions that had everyone on the edge of their seats, only to fizzle out like a damp firecracker. Picture this. It's ancient Rome, and the soothsayers are working overtime. They're peering into animal entrails, reading tea leaves, and probably arguing over whose crystal ball is the shiniest. And then, boom, prophecy drops that has everyone from the emperor to the guy selling olives in a tizzy. The empire will fall when a one-eyed man ascends to the throne, they proclaim. Well, wouldn't you know it, for the next century, every time a guy with an eye patch so much as looked at the palace, people lost their minds. Spoiler alert, the empire eventually fell, but it had nothing to do with any one-eyed rulers. Just good old-fashioned decay, barbarian invasions, and probably too much lead in the water pipes. But let's not pick on the Romans too much, okay? They weren't the only ones with a penchant for dramatic predictions. Over in medieval Europe, there was this whole thing about the end of the world. Seems like every other Tuesday, someone was predicting the apocalypse. There was this one monk, let's call him Brother Panicky, who swore up and down that the world would end in the year 1000. People were selling their homes, giving away their possessions, and generally freaking out. New Year's Eve rolls around, and everyone's holding their breath. Midnight strikes, and ... nothing. Just a bunch of confused peasants wondering if they could get their chickens back. Now, I know what you're thinking, but surely some prophecies must have come true, right? Well, dear listener, that's where the beauty of vague language comes in. Take the famous Nostradamus, for example. This guy was the king of cryptic quatrains. It writes something like, "The young lion will overcome the older one on the field of combat in a single battle. He will pierce his eyes through a golden cage. 2 wounds made 1. Then he dies a cruel death." And for centuries, people have been trying to fit this to every major event, from Napoleon's conquests to last week's football match. Speaking of misinterpretations, let's talk about the Mayan calendar end date fiasco of 2012. Remember that? The whole world was in a tizzy because an ancient Mesoamerican civilization's calendar was supposedly ending. People were building bunkers, stockpiling canned goods, and probably regretting not taking that dream vacation to Tahiti. December 21st, 2012 comes and goes, and the most exciting thing that happened was your Aunt Sharon posting a "We survived" status on Facebook. But my personal favorite in the realm of prophecies gone wrong has to be the Great Disappointment of 1844. There was this preacher named William Miller who convinced thousands of people that Jesus was coming back on October 22nd, 1844. Folks sold their farms, quit their jobs, and even climbed up hills to get a better view of the heavenly spectacle. Spoiler alert, Jesus was a no-show. Can you imagine the awkward conversations the next day? So, you anyone want to buy back their cow? Now, I'm not saying all prophecies are bunk. Heck, I once predicted I'd eat that entire pizza by myself, and lo and behold, it came true. But there's something about grand, world-changing predictions that seem to bring out the skeptic in me. Maybe it's because history has a way of unfolding in ways no one expects. Or maybe it's because humans have an uncanny ability to see patterns where there are none. Take the whole Y2K scare, for instance. Remember that? The prophecy of technological doom that had everyone convinced our computers would revolt at the stroke of midnight. January 1st, 2000. People were withdrawing their life savings, stocking up on canned goods, and probably dusting off their abacuses. And what happened? Few digital clocks got confused, and that was about it. The biggest catastrophe was all the unopened cans of spam cluttering up pantries across the world. But let's not be too hard on our ancestors and their love for good prophecy. After all, predicting the future is a tough gig. If it were easy, we'd all be millionaires betting on horse races and stock markets. The truth is, humans have always been fascinated by the idea of knowing what's coming next. It's comforting, in a way, to think that the chaos of life might follow some grand plan, even if that plan involves the occasional apocalypse or two. And hey, who knows, maybe some of those ancient seers were just having a laugh. Imagine being an oracle in ancient Greece, bored out of your mind. When some big shot comes asking about the future, you could either give a straightforward answer or have a bit of fun. Oh yes, I see great peril in your future, unless you hop on one foot while patting your head for the next week, and then you sit back and watch the entertainment unfold as we wind down our journey through the graveyard of failed prophecies. Let's take a moment to appreciate the resilience of human hope. No matter how many times these grand predictions fall flat, there's always someone ready to believe the next one. It's like we all collectively playing a cosmic game of Lucy in the football with fate as Charlie Brown. But perhaps that's not such a bad thing. In a world that can often feel chaotic and unpredictable, there's something oddly comforting about the idea that someone, somewhere, might have it all figured out, even if that someone turns out to be as clueless as the rest of us. So, as you drift off to sleep tonight, surrounded by the gentle crackle of our imaginary fireplace, ponder this. What wild predictions might future generations look back on and chuckle about? Will it be the flying cars we were all promised? The robot butlers? Oh, maybe, just maybe, they'll marvel at how we once thought wearing socks with sandals was a fashion faux pas. Whatever the future holds, one thing's for certain: humanity will keep on predicting, hoping, and occasionally getting it hilariously wrong. And honestly, isn't that unpredictability what makes history and life so fascinating? As your eyelids grow heavy and the world of dreams beckons, remember that the best prophecy is the one you write for yourself. So dream big, aim high, and who knows, maybe you'll be the one to finally predict something correctly. Just don't bet your farm on it. Good night. Sleep tight, and may all your prophecies be pleasantly surprising.